Welcome, God's chosen ones. When you throw rocks at a sleeping lion, don't be startled if it wakes up and roars louder than your bravery can withstand. The fact is that messing with a chosen one is like playing with fire while covered in gasoline. Bold, stupid, and always catastrophic. History has often shown that when people rise against those who are divinely protected, they do not simply lose the struggle. They lose all they thought they had under control. Consider this reality. Envy is the root cause of more than 80% of human disputes. However, those who provoke the selected seldom seem to envy the repercussions of their acts. Isn't it funny how it works? In this video, we'll look at how the anguish you went through irritated not just you, but also God. They believed they were igniting a little flame, but instead they started a wildfire they couldn't put out. Buckle up, for this is a tale of divine justice. Karmic irony and fire they will wish they hadn't begun. At number 1, they were unaware of the significance of your calling. They have no idea who you were. They didn't realize the significance of your presence or your appeal to them. You were simply another person they could put down, mock, or control. However, they were unable to recognize the divine purpose that was woven throughout your existence. You were not average, and their acts were not just an assault on you, they were directly challenging something considerably larger by torturing you. They entered a conflict they were unprepared for. Your quiet was not a sign of weakness, and your tolerance was not a kind of surrender. It was all about patience, born from the knowledge that you were protected by a power beyond their comprehension. Their hubris blinded them, leading them to believe they could treat you whatever they wanted without repercussions. But every word they spoke, every horrible deed they committed, was like signing a check. Their spirit was unable to cash. You see, when someone attacks a chosen one, they are doing more than simply damaging the victim. They are upsetting a divine design. Your presence in their lives was not coincidental. It was a test, a lesson, or even a warning. Instead of acknowledging it, they decided to assault it. Their deeds created waves in the spiritual world, and the waves have repercussions. They prodded something they didn't understand, and now they're paying the consequences. They didn't understand they were setting themselves up for failure. They believed they were extinguishing you, but they instead fueled the fire inside you. And now, as your light shines brighter, they're left standing in the darkness, wondering how they lost control of a situation they believed they had under control. They misjudged both you and God's hand in your life. Number 2, their hubris led them to believe they could avoid penalties. They believed they were untouchable. Their hubris led them to feel they could do anything they wanted with you and walk away undamaged. They believed they were too brilliant, strong, or well hidden to face any repercussions. They saw your silence as weakness and your patience as approval. But hubris blinded them to the truth, and in this instance, it caused them to reject the spiritual rules that keep the balances balanced. They didn't just injure you, they ventured to mess with something holy. When you are selected, your life is more than simply your own. Your path, purpose, and even struggles are all part of a larger plan. By attempting to ruin you, they have basically questioned God's authority. Here's the thing with God, He does not lose wars. They weren't just taking on you. They were facing forces they couldn't see. They did not believe in these forces. However, these forces are unquestionably real. They operated as if there was no reckoning, no divine order to catch up with them. They persuaded themselves that their machinations would remain concealed, that their falsehoods would go unchecked, and that they would escape unharmed. However, hubris is usually loudest before a fall. They hadn't anticipated how soon the tables would flip. They're now stuck in a fire. They set themselves on fire, and no amount of cunning can rescue them. Their plans have collapsed. Their masks have loosened, and the energy they used to attack you is returning to them tenfold. They believed they were invincible, but they misjudged the might of divine justice. You didn't need to raise a finger. God saw everything, and now they see how wrong they were. Their biggest error was being arrogant. Number 3, they awoke a heavenly fire designed to develop you. What they did to you was intended to shatter you. They wanted to see you crushed beneath the weight of their malice, uncertain of yourself, doubting your purpose, and deviating from the route you were meant to take. However, their strategy backfired unexpectedly. Instead of shattering you, their acts triggered something tremendous inside you. They couldn't control the flames. They believed they were destroying you, but all they did was awaken the part of you that was designed to transcend their suffering, which became your refining. Every insult, treachery, and effort to undermine you was like applying pressure to coal, transforming it into a diamond. You did not just survive. You developed. They failed to realize that when a chosen one is sent through the fire, they are not consumed. It cleanses them. The suffering they caused served to develop your resilience, concentration, and faith. They were so consumed by their desire to see you fail that they overlooked the greater picture. The more they pushed you, the closer you came to achieving your goals. Isn't it ironic? They were working against you, yet their efforts helped you go ahead. The energy they used to destroy you really spurred your metamorphosis. They're now watching in astonishment as you become stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable than ever. What they intended was to do damage. God became into a stepping stone. They wanted you to fail. But all they'd done is prepare you for the triumph they'll have to watch. The fire they ignited did not terminate your life. It marked the beginning of a version of you that they would never be able to overcome, since their acts acted as proof in the spiritual sphere. Everything they did to you was not merely seen. It was seen, documented, and weighed in the spiritual world. Every nasty remark, planned treachery, every malevolent plot. They believed everything stopped when you walked away. No one stood up for you, and no earthly justice appeared to be served. They didn't comprehend, however, that nothing escapes divine notice, particularly when focused at a chosen one. When you are God's vessel, you are not wandering through life alone. You have a purpose that is safeguarded, a predetermined fate, and a spiritual protection mechanism that goes far beyond human comprehension. Their actions were not only an assault on you, they were a direct challenge to the divine plan operating through you. Each violation was more than just an act of cruelty. It became evidence in a case they had no idea they were bringing against themselves. The spiritual dimension is not governed by emotions or chance. It is regulated by law, justice, and balance. Every lie they spoke about you resonated louder than they expected. Every treachery, no matter how skillfully veiled, was exposed before powers beyond human understanding. They believed they were smart in avoiding worldly responsibility, yet their deeds were never overlooked. The irony is that with each vile deed they committed, they tipped the spiritual scales against themselves. They may not have foreseen the immediate effects, but the reckoning was unavoidable. What they sowed in the dark is now producing fruit in the light. Their own actions become their testimony, and now that they are facing the repercussions, they cannot deny the truth. Justice is not always fast, but it is always guaranteed for those who have been chosen. Number 5, they derided what they did not comprehend. Their mocking was less about you and more about what you represented. They did not grasp the brightness you conveyed. Instead of trying to figure things out, they reacted angrily. Why? Because your presence disturbed something inside them. The heavenly grace on your life was beyond their comprehension. People often attack things they don't comprehend. Their laughing, mockery, and efforts to reduce you were grounded in ignorance. They ridiculed your calm confidence, tenacity, and faith because they lacked the depth to understand the reality. But it wasn't all ignorance. It was also a revolt. The light inside you revealed the darkness in their own life, including doubts, envy, and fear. They couldn't confront. Mocking you became a means for them to deflect and escape their own image in the mirror. Your presence offered. They failed to see that ridiculing the selected is not a harmless act. It is a rejection of the spiritual energy that flows through you. Everything they spoke against you was not simply noise. It was an act of defiance against something much larger than themselves. Rebellion against the light always has a cost. Their harshness did not dull your brightness. It exacerbated it while they were ripping you down. Your power rose as they mocked what they did not understand. Your goal became evident as they watched you climb. They're starting to realize what they ridiculed wasn't weakness, but unshakable indefinitely. And it is the ultimate irony. Their efforts to break you merely exposed to strength they will never comprehend. Number 6, they saw your quiet as weakness. They totally misunderstood you. When you chose quiet, they saw it as capitulation, as if you had nothing left to fight for. They saw your lack of vengeance as evidence that they had succeeded and that their acts had damaged you. But they were mistaken, dead incorrect. Your quiet was not weakness. It was wisdom. It was not surrender. It was a strategy. You knew something that others didn't. Not every struggle requires your voice. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to stand aside and allow a greater force to take charge. While they were busy planning, lying, and digging traps for you, you remained still, not because you couldn't fight, but because you recognized that divine justice is much more exact than anything you could provide. What they didn't know was that your quiet did not indicate a lack of activity. It was the loudest plea for divine intervention. They ridiculed your stillness, laughed at your restraint, and celebrated what they saw to be your loss. The fire they started was already turning against them. The energy they used to damage you was looping back, and they didn't discover until it was too late. The irony is that your silence revealed their hubris. They exposed their genuine identities. Every falsehood, every harsh behavior, every fake mask fell apart because they assumed you weren't paying attention and couldn't defend yourself. However, your silence did not indicate stupidity. It was the ultimate power move. Now, as they confront the repercussions of their deeds, they are beginning to realize the reality. What they regarded for weakness was really power beyond their comprehension. By remaining quiet, you did not lose the struggle. You turned everything over to a power that never loses, and that knowledge marks their final failure. Number 7, they disregarded the warning flags. The indications were obvious to everyone paying attention. a time of unexpected disaster. They had an unsettling dream, a nagging sense that something was wrong. These were the tiny warnings coming their way, yet their pride overpowered the murmurs. They discounted their gut instincts as paranoia, attributed the defeats to poor luck, and ignored the dreams that should have made them stop. Instead of heeding these warnings, they doubled down, believing that they were unbeatable. God does not act without kindness. Even individuals who do damage are often given opportunities to turn back, ponder, and modify their direction. These were warnings, not punishments. They were occasions for them to pause and reconsider their conduct. But pride has a way of sealing the heart and drowning out the voice of reason. They disregarded the holes in their plans and the underlying uneasiness that should have made them reconsider their intentions. They misunderstood the delay and repercussions as permission to proceed. What they didn't comprehend was that the warnings were becoming more louder with each step they made toward their own demise by refusing to listen. They sealed their destiny. The same hubris that blinded them to these warnings also left them susceptible to the fire they were starting for themselves. Now, as everything falls around them, they are remembering those times, the hopes they dismissed, the unexpected hardships, the inner voice that instructed them to quit. These were the indications. They chose to ignore. They refused the lifelines. Their demise was not sudden. It was a sluggish and avoidable decline. However, pride, their greatest weakness, rendered them oblivious to the kindness that might have rescued them. And now they have to face the repercussions of their intransigence. Number 8, they attempted to bury you without realizing you were a seed. They believed they could bury you. They felt that by driving you down, attempting to obliterate your existence, or silencing your voice, they might eliminate the danger you constituted. What they didn't realize is that by attempting to bury you, they were unintentionally planting you further into your mission. Like a seed hiding in the dirt, believed to be lost in the darkness, they didn't comprehend how powerful the darkness was. What they failed to realize is that being buried is not the end, it is the beginning. The darkness they attempted to imprison you in became the ideal setting for development. While they believed they were burying your potential, they were really cultivating it. Every effort at breaking you, every attempt to keep you down was really bringing you closer to the breakthrough you were meant for. Just like a seed in the ground, you had to go through a time of hiding and testing before you could climb to the depths of their plots. You were quietly evolving, gaining strength, knowledge, and insight. They believed they had won because they could not see the progress you were making. But eventually, the day arrived when you emerged stronger, more powerful, and unrecognizable to those who had before imagined they could destroy you. Meanwhile, their personal lives started to disintegrate. They couldn't avoid the consequences of their deeds, the falsehoods, the brutality, and the hubris. What they attempted to bury was the same thing that would emerge to reveal the truth as you grew into your heavenly mission. Their own demise was put into action. They planted the seed, but they had no idea it would develop into something bigger than they could ever imagine. Number 9. Their ideas failed spectacularly. Every move they took against you, every strategy they devised to pull you down, just paved the way for their own destruction. They planned and strategized, believing they could outwit the cosmos. However, in the end, they just outsmarted themselves. Every effort to destroy you ended up creating a trap for them to fall into. They failed to see that when you're united with a greater purpose, nothing can stop you. Not even the most well-constructed plans can knock you down. Their activities were not just against you. They were up against something far larger. They felt they had control by tugging the cords, but each thread they pulled tightened the noose around their own necks. What was intended to damage you instead revealed their faults, lifestyles, and vulnerabilities. They wanted to see you fall and fail, but instead they were entangled in the webs they created. The schemes they put in motion were like boomerangs, always returning to them, and now they are reeling, faced with the repercussions of their own decisions. As you ascend and continue on your path, they remain trapped in the disaster they made. Every malicious and intentional action they took has come back to haunt them in unexpected ways. Instead of watching you collapse, they are forced to face their own shortcomings and the unavoidable consequences of their actions. Their schemes failed horribly, leaving them with nothing except the carnage they caused. The irony. They believed they were burying you, but they were really excavating their own grave. Number 10, they've lost forever while you're acquiring it. Every attempt they've made to deprive you of your dignity, attack your character, or diminish your value has only worked against them. They believed they could tear you down, isolate you, and deprive you of the benefits you deserved. Instead, their actions set off a series of events that stripped them of all they believed they controlled. Their hatred and malice didn't just backfire, it resulted in a loss of favor in all areas of their life. Socially, they were abandoned by people they had formerly relied on. The people they controlled and duped are finally recognizing the reality for what it is, and their masquerade can no longer be maintained. They have lost their influence, networks, and support as they continue on their disastrous path. The people they believed they could control are turning against them, recognizing them for who they actually are. Spiritually, their separation from the divine has grown. They may not understand it yet, but every action they made against you was an act against something far larger than themselves. The cosmos would not allow such disdain, and they suddenly find themselves in a spiritual drought, unable to receive instruction or tap into the flow of gifts they formerly took for granted. Materially, their control over their goods, money, and success has weakened. What they got via fraud is gradually fading. They believed they could steal from you and retain everything for themselves. However, the benefits they attempted to deny you are now pouring freely in your way. The tables have turned, and while they strive to keep what they once had, you see the plenty that was always intended for you. Their loss is your gain. Number 11, they incurred the wrath of a protecting creator. They made a major error by thinking they were just targeting you. What they didn't comprehend was that by causing you hurt, they were inadvertently sparking something much larger than themselves. The Creator's protection power is watching over you. You were never alone in this war. They weren't simply aiming at you. They were questioning the divine powers that had been allocated to your life. Such rebellion is not well received by those in control. They weren't simply battling a person when they sought to bring you down by nasty acts, lies, and attacks on your character. They were up against a much more powerful force than they could possibly comprehend. They perceived you as a weak target that they could defeat. But in their hubris, they forgot that you were selected and blessed with heavenly protection. And those who try to break you will experience the repercussions of battling something they can never vanquish. As they wrestle with the ramifications of their conduct, they begin to realize the depth of their blunder. They believed they could avoid the consequences of their acts, but the universe knows that a protecting creator's anger is not to be underestimated. What they have planted is now returning to them, not in tiny amounts, but with overwhelming power. They believed they had control, yet they were just stoking the flames of their own ruin. As you continue to ascend, protected by heavenly favor, they are forced to deal with the consequences of their spiritual rebellion. They never recognized that by assaulting you, they were ultimately laying the groundwork for their own demise. Their punishment has already begun, and it is considerably more than they expected. Number 12. Their fire has become a furnace. The fire they started with such confidence, expecting it would burn you to the ground, has grown into an uncontrollable worldwide furnace that is now consuming them. They believed they could destroy you by increasing the heat through lies, treachery, and brutality. But what they didn't realize was that they were merely stoking a fire that would ultimately turn against them. The fires they started with malevolent purpose have grown out of control, and they are now imprisoned in the inferno they caused. What they didn't comprehend was that when you're selected and protected, the flames of hardship only make you stronger. They believed putting you through the flames would shatter your spirit, but instead it increased your determination. Meanwhile, the damage they unleashed is consuming their own foundations, relationships, prospects, and stability. Everything they believed they could rely on is being burnt by the fire they started. The more they strained to flee, the hotter the furnace became. What they had thought would be a method of triumph has evolved into a relentless force of karma. No matter how much they attempt to flee or fight back, they cannot escape the repercussions of their actions. The devastation they inflicted is now manifesting itself in their lives, undermining their serenity, happiness, and future. Every bit of nastiness they hurled your way has doubled, coming back in ways they can't control. The infernal they've been imprisoned in is unrelenting. There is no escape, no place to hide, for the fire they started is now a mirror of their own darkness. They wanted to see you burn, but instead they are being engulfed by the fires they created. In the end, what they believed would shatter you really made you indestructible. Every act of brutality, every effort to bring you down has only helped you grow. They started a fire that they couldn't control, and now they're trapped in the flames of their own creating. They felt they were attacking you, but they were actually challenging something much greater. Divine protection has always been with you. As the tables turn, you emerge not just uninjured, but stronger, more powerful, and more connected with your mission than ever before. While others deal with the fallout from their acts, you stride onward, blessed and unstoppable. The universe has a way of recording wrongs, and those that oppose you will always suffer the repercussions of their actions. Their loss is your gain. Their fire has transformed into a furnace, along with you. You are living evidence that nothing can stop you when you are chosen and divinely protected. What was designed to damage you has really set the scene for your greatest success. Continue climbing because the greatest is yet to come. If this message spoke to you and you can sense the strength of your own ascension, you're precisely where you need to be. Don't miss out on more powerful, truth-filled information that will keep you focused on your mission and unstoppable on your quest. Hit the subscribe button, join the community, and stay one step ahead of the game. The way ahead is yours, and together we'll walk it stronger, wiser, and unabashedly chosen. Subscribe today and let's keep the momentum rolling. The best is yet to come. Stay blessed.